will die.
Comes another shock to the system.
Can't hide anything from me, Dr. Angelo.
It began as an experiment in virtual reality.
I can make you smarter.
It became an experience in sheer terror.
I am God here.
The Lawnmower Man. Reality is not what it used to be. Rated R. Experience it Friday, February 14th.
They have invaded.
I don't like this one bit.
They are everywhere.
They're all around us and we never knew it.
They are aliens.
We are being bred for slavery.
Open your eyes.
Take a look.
Join the fight.
Let's go!
Join Rowdy Roddy Piper.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick you. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
John Carpenter's They Live tonight at 8 on Channel 11, New York's movie station.
What? No dip? For a really great Halloween, pick up tons of Pepsi and Doritos.
Citizens of the Oasis, like many of you, I only came here to escape. But I found something much bigger than just myself. Are you willing to fight? Well, Joe!
This is war. Find them.
Welcome to the rebellion.
Ready Player One.
Mike, what is your deal, man?
Come on, man. You've been riding me all day.
Mike, you're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
Baby!
Eat Snickers. Better?
Better.
I'm all bad!
That hurt.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
And we're live. I forgot about that Betty White commercial I put at the end. Oh my God, I love that commercial. So welcome everybody. This is Pop Cycle Bubbles' Pop Con, the new normal VOD and how it is changing how we watch cinema. And we're going to go just right in. My name is Sean. I will be the moderator and also panelist. To my screen left will be the lovely Jenna. Miss Jenna, if you don't mind, introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Jenna Bush. I'm an entertainment reporter, host, writer. I used to co-host a show with Stan Lee. I have contributed to 11 books in the Psych Geek series, including Star Wars Psychology. I am a giant nerd. I do lots of weird things, and I have interviewed Betty White.
You have interviewed Betty White?
I have interviewed Betty White.
Wow. Okay, we're going to come back to that. But to her screen left is our good buddy Michael. Michael, if you don't mind, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I'm Michael Faulkner. I'm a writer and a podcaster from the Atlanta area. My primary means of getting things out there these days is my blog, Creative Criticality, which I spelled out nicely on the nameplate right down there, because it is sometimes hard to remember, where I do a whole bunch of writing about pop culture stuff, including for the last 6 years now. I think it's 2014 when I started that. I've been looking at Doctor Who for every episode from the very beginning of the franchise all the way until whenever we run out of episodes, which will be hardly ever, and talking about them every week. I am going to finish off the Tennant era by the end of the year. So that's how far I've come. That can be all found at creativecriticality.net.
Fantastic. Yeah, you're never going to get done with that series. I mean,
No. It's never gonna end.
That's just going to never ending story on that one. But directly south of him is my good buddy Gary. Gary, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Gary Mitchell, and I can be found here on the Twitters as Gary_Mitchell with one L. Yes, Star Trek fans, it's my real name. I am the co-director of the American Sci-Fi Classics Track at DragonCon, where we talk about all kinds of geek stuff at con, and our Facebook group, we talk about it all year long. And every Thursday, you can catch our quarantine panels.
Absolutely. And actually, I was supposed to be on one last night. And I totally spaced on Joe, so I'm going to have to go and apologize to him because we were so busy.
Oh, you don't want to apologize to me. I see. I see how it is.
Joe invited me, not you.
You can assume if it comes from Joe, I'm attached.
Okay, well, I apologize to your half of the apology bubble. How's that?
I accept your apology.
Okay, thank you. And then to his screen right is my buddy Nathan. Nathan, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nathan Laws. I'm the host of the 42 Cast, which is your ultimate answer to fandom, geekiness, and everything, where my friends and I will talk about just about any topic in the geekosphere. I'm also the host of Time Streams, which is a podcast where my friend Juliet and I are going through all the episodes of Doctor Who, just like Michael is, except we're doing it on a podcast rather than writing it down.
Well, writing it down is hard.
A little bit of Doctor Who fandom kind of going on there, yeah?
Right.
Well,
okay. So they have to fight to the death now.
Oh, okay. So we're going to change the title right now. It's going to be Doctor Who Thunderdome. 2 geeks enter, 1 geek
music queued up, Sean.
Right. We're going to have Tina Turner singing. What was the song she sung in Thunderdome? What was that?
We don't need another hero.
Oh,
see,
we don't know the way home. All we want is like the young.
Is it wrong that I like your version better?
That was pretty good, actually. Yeah, that was good. That was good. Hold on, Gary, take a bow. Take a bow. That was good. That was good, buddy. There you go. There you go.
Coming soon from Pop Cycle Bobble's recording arm.
Right. That'll be our new recording brand. We're just going to have some really interesting. I'm sorry. I'm just like laughing over the.
Gary sings all your '80s hits.
Oh man, it's only 9:30. I got another panel after this one to do, so I got to keep it together until midnight, basically. But yes, as I was saying, this is the new normal. How VOD is changing how we see cinema. This was a panel that I was really passionate about because of the fact that, you know, if you're a huge fan of watching movies, if you're a huge fan of going and sitting in a theater and watching, you know, movie trailers and getting that whole theater experience, 2020 has been, like, for everybody else, just the biggest punch in the gut that you could possibly imagine. And it's one of those moments where you're looking at the theaters and you know that they are having problems. But at the same time, the actual studios are in this really weird quandary. If we move to VOD, does that mean that we're not going to be able to still garner the kind of numbers that we could if we stuck with the theaters? And how does that affect our relationship? And I thought this would be a really interesting conversation to talk about our personal experiences, positive and negative, about all of this. As everybody has mentioned, we come from a variety of backgrounds, so we should all have some pretty interesting takes on this. But I was just wanting to kind of go around the corner first. And again, I'll do it in the way we introduced each other. So I'll go Jenna, Michael, Gary, and then Nathan. Just what are your thoughts about how they're handling VOD? Do you think that embracing VOD is a smart move or a bad move, and why?
Smart move, honestly, because I'm not going to a theater and I'm a film critic. So I'm not, in fact, one of the guilds that I belong to actually just sent out this questionnaire about whether or not we'd go into movies, and it's for the studios. And most of us were saying no. And I think VOD is the way to go. I mean, everyone's streaming everything anyway. But, you know, as somebody who does press junkets for a living, it's very frustrating for me because I can't do face-to-face interviews. I'm sure we'll get into the way they're marketing at some point, but yeah, it's very, very different, and I've got a lot of experience with it now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm interested to see where you think it's going to go. But we did have a question from the audience, from one of our frequent watchers, Ty, who asked, "What does VOD stand for? Is it not live?" No, in this case, VOD actually stands for video on demand. It is essentially your Amazon Prime. Mulan was behind the Disney paywall of that $30 paywall. Any way that you're able to stream a movie directly from the studio without having to go to the theater is essentially what they're putting under this umbrella as VOD. And there's a couple of different versions of it, but that gives you a good idea. But Michael, same question to you. Do you think this is a good move, or do you think this is a bad move?
I think it's a smart move right now, because like Jenna was saying, a lot of people aren't going to the theaters. I know I'm not going to go to the theater anytime soon. You know, I don't have the appeal of going in there with someone who may be contagious and then sitting in the same air with them for a good 2 or 3 hours. but I'm also a physical media dinosaur, and I say that proudly. I'm one of the proud readers of Gary's blog, which I'm sure he'll pimp here in a second. But it's to me, it's all about the rights issues, right? I mean, like the videos that are on my shelf, they don't expire. You know, I can go pull that anytime and watch it. Whereas if it goes to Netflix or Amazon or whatever, they're always doing their contracts, they're always doing the rights negotiations.
Right.
Things come on and fall off all the time. And there's also the appeal of being there in a theater with your friends and being able to discuss the movie afterward over dinner or out in the parking lot or whatever else that I really miss about it. You know, it's great to be able to pull up the movie and my wife and I can sit there and watch it, but then it's like, okay, we both just watched this. It's awesome, but I'd rather talk about it with my friends over here that I haven't seen in months. You know,
right? You're missing that communal experience.
Yeah, so I think it's a smart move now to get the media out there and keep the studios rolling to the best of the ability they can. But I also I think that there's still a huge appeal to going to the theater and then having physical media left over afterward that I don't think is going to go away. It didn't disappear with books in the ebook revolution. It doesn't disappear with music. I mean, we still have LPs and we have CDs. So yeah.
And a comment from my wife here is hermits like me prefer VOD. It's fair. To be fair, she has loved that. That's one of the really positive moments of 2020 for us is that she always wants to go and watch the movies with me. She hates going to the theaters. So this year she's been able to watch a lot of new movies and she's done it from the comfort of our living room downstairs. So she's like, what? Keep this going. But Gary, what about you? Are you a fan of this? Do you think it's a good move or a bad move as far as VOD?
Again, I kind of have to agree with Mr. Michael that it's the smart move. And I think they've got to get the movies out. I think that holding off is only going to last so long. I also agree that I do not want to go back to the movie theaters yet. I don't feel like it's safe. And I say this as someone who's been going to the movies as long as I can remember. I was a proud and reactivated my AMC Stubs membership. I'm paying $20 a month for something I'm not using right now because I'm trying to keep that industry alive. I want the movie theater industry to stay alive. It looks like Regal may be going under, so it depends on how this plays out.
Yeah.
The studio, like we said, I think the studios are going to be fine either way. Eventually it's going to come out. It's going to come out on VOD or it's going to come out on a physical media. But we've got to keep if the theaters go under, VOD will be just it. And I believe artists should get paid, and I believe the people in this movie industry should get paid. And if we have to switch to VOD to make sure that happens so that we keep getting movies and entertainment, then that's what we got to do.
No, I think that's a really smart point. Nathan, before we kind of get into the head of it or to the crux of it, what about you? Do you think it's a smart move, bad move? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of hard to paint it like in a, one way or the other like that because of the fact that I think it might become a necessary evil. We don't know how these studios are sitting right now as far as money, and they've done their own projections as far as what would happen if the COVID vaccine gets out and then people can see it in the movie theater and they can make, 700, 800, 1.2 billion, whatever dollars from it versus if they release it on VOD and they're only going to make, 150 million, 200 million. So we don't know when that cost benefits analysis, comes to the point where they're like, well, we've just hemorrhaged so much cash that we need to make something right now. And so it's better to take the loss than to not release it at all. So it might be a necessary evil, but no, I prefer going to the movie theater. And certainly if they're going to charge the price like Disney was charging for Mulan, where it was so high that, I don't think that it's worth it for me because I'm not getting the theater experience. It's like people say, well, if there's more than 2 people going to the movie theater, you're already saving money. Well, okay, but on my TV at home, I'm not getting the movie theater experience. So you have to make it cheaper to make it worth my, my coin, basically.
Yeah, all you have to do is look at one of the biggest things that hit YouTube this year was the video with audio from Avengers Endgame of the scene, and it exploded because it was almost like getting to relive that theater experience again when the whole crowd is screaming, and like Michael and Nathan said, you don't get that at home. I don't have 150 people screaming along with me. Yeah,
I mean the biggest. I just wanted to say, when A New Hope was re-released to the theaters in the late 90s, you know, like I'd seen that movie, you know, 100 times, 200 times, whatever at home. Completely different experience watching it in the movie theater.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to say, like, you know, I don't normally go to normal movie theaters because I usually see everything in screenings where you have a bunch of critics, and critics don't woot as much as they really should. There's no wooting. So it's not that different seeing it at home. And I do have to say, no one's eating tuna fish in the theater. No one's crunching popcorn. I don't have to touch sticky things. But at the same time, I do miss it. And just one thing about Mulan, I saw it as a screener, so I can't, you know, speak to paying for it because I didn't. But and it is true that if you've got a house full of kids, it is actually cheaper. But a lot of people are stuck at home by themselves right now. And I think that was really the big problem, is that, you know, I can't go see my friends. So I'm by myself. And I'm not by myself. I don't live by myself, but a lot of people do. And so that's an awful lot of money. And people are just like, well, why would I bother? I know the story already. And I think that was the big problem with that one, is that there's nothing really new. I mean, there's a couple things, but not really a lot of new stuff in Mulan. And so I think a lot of people were like, well, then why wouldn't I just wait until December?
Right. And that definitely is something that I think a lot of people are weighing. There is definitely a example of, okay, is it worth me using this paywall, or should I wait for it to show up on Prime or be on discount? And I know for Laura and I, one of the things that we did is we have friends of ours who work for Universal actually at the theme parks. And one of the things that they did when this whole COVID thing started was they said, look, nobody's getting fired. We're not letting go of anybody. We want to make sure that everybody here is going to be able to stay on salary. So all these people who worked in the theme parks, which were a couple of our friends, they were basically getting paid to stay at home, and they were gathering a paycheck because Universal was like, basically all these movies that we were going to release in the theaters, we're just going to dump on VOD. And that money they were making on VOD was allowing them to basically keep people on, I think, at 80% salary or something like that. And for that reason alone, I was doing $20 rentals of everything that remotely interested me. And there are quite a few movies that I probably would not have watched until it showed up on HBO or something as a result. And I was actually really excited by that. I was like, wow, that's been really cool. So I definitely think that there is a financial marker to be brought into this. But I also think it's interesting that when we're looking at this as a monster of, okay, this is something inevitable, this is something that we have to embrace. How does that affect theaters? I personally am kind of thinking that, my favorite theaters to go to these days are the ones that have like the super luxe seating, or the ones that bring, you can order beers and they just bring them to you, or they have like, like the cinema grill kind of atmosphere where you're able to actually sit down and like have much more of a collective experience. Now, Jenna, I know in your region, you guys have like full on pods, right? Is this correct? Like you're almost like in your own little, like that's what I've heard. Like they're like these little pods.
But the one that I used to go to, and again, I don't go there very often because I'm usually doing screenings.
Right.
But there is one where the seats they go by twos, and there's only 4 seats in a row.
Right.
And you go downstairs and you get snacks and you get appetizers outside, and then they call you in individually. They give you a pillow and a blanket, and the seats recline completely.
Right.
And they don't really have to lean over more than one person to hand you a drink or hand you snacks. So it's kind of nice. But
yeah,
but also when I'm at home watching it on my television, I can also do that.
Right. Yeah. You can just look at your boyfriend and go like, honey.
I'll get up myself. But also, I think that, with the theater experience, and I'm very sad for the theaters right now. I am. And I'm sad for me because I'm not getting a lot of work because there isn't anything happening.
Yeah, everything's in limbo right now.
Yeah, it basically screwed me over. So believe me, I sympathize. But at the same time, I like watching stuff at home. I'm like Laura, like I enjoy being able to pause it, to go to the bathroom, to get up, to sit with my cats. My cats like movies. I don't know. Jeff and I really actually enjoy watching stuff here. So
yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to think is right now we're kind of stuck in this is the way it is.
Yeah.
We will get through this
right.
Eventually. So I think the question then becomes is like, I think it should be an either or. I mean, Hollywood was moving in this direction anyway before COVID dropped down, of things either releasing at the same time as theatrical or very, very quickly after. And I know as someone who enjoys the theatrical experience, I would prefer to see it that way. But there are a lot of people like your wife and like Jenna who want to see it at home in their comfort, not deal with other people, and you know, it's convenient. And I think the question now needs to be more of not, is this the new normal? Because I think it is. It's what should that paywall be? Because I think that may be the sticking point. Because I personally didn't have a problem kicking over $30 for Mulan because, again, artists should be paid. But I think $30 was still a bit much.
It did feel
on top of Disney Plus's subscription fee.
Yeah, right. for a first shot across the bow, I think it was too much. And also, I think if it was something different, like something that had major spoilers, like a Star Wars movie or an Avengers movie, which obviously they're not going to put stuff like that out on VOD unless they have no choice. But I really think with spoilers, that's when you can charge $30.
Well, that's exactly what I said, was that if it had been Black Widow or if it had been Wonder Woman 84, like Warner Brothers was putting out, that would have been a hard decision for me. Like, oh, will I pay $30? I probably would have. But yeah, Mulan, it was like exactly what you said. I already know the story. Where's the incentive to, pay that much money?
Yeah.
Well, and the flip side of that, and this is something that I know Mulan has gotten a lot of grief right now because Disney just went through the official Chinese channels and they made the movie where they were told to make the movie. They're like, okay, let's do this. And so I know they got a lot of flack because there's a lot of cultural things going on in China right now. And I know if you're Disney, you're like, people say we want to see more Asian leads. So like, hey, we have one amazing Asian cartoon movie. We've been turning all these cartoons into live action. Let's live action Mulan. And because they don't get somebody who, and I know this sounds terrible, but I feel like if you're doing a movie that is about somebody else's culture, you should have like a cultural expert kind of come in and kind of go over the material. Because right now, I guarantee you, I don't know the numbers for what Mulan's paywall has been, but I guarantee you, because of the protests and the people who were saying they were not going to watch it until it became free in December, I know that has softened Disney's bottom line for that. And I'm curious, do they see that as a weakness of, oh, well, people don't like Asian-made leads, which I think is the wrong takeaway, or do they take the right call from this and say, we should have been more culturally sensitive when making this film?
I tend to think that they realize that people just don't have money right now, because that's the other thing. It's like, a lot of us, me included, don't have a whole lot of work right now. And $30 is a lot of money right now.
It is.
And, and I think that's the big takeaway, because, they just announced the new Pixar movie Soul there's no paywall.
Right.
And to be fair, there hasn't been a lot of advertising for it, probably because of everything that's been happening. Whereas Mulan, everybody knew that movie was coming out, and it had its premiere. Like, it actually did a live premiere right before everything shut down.
Right. Yeah.
So, but then you look at movies like, say, Promising Young Woman, which I saw. That was the last film I saw in a screening before everything shut down. And oh my freaking God, it's incredible, mind-blowing movie.
And it's just been lost.
It's lost. And I mean, I know they're bringing it out on VOD, and it's really frustrating. I mean, I reviewed that movie in March, and the review still isn't out because it's and if you keep looking, it'll be on IGN.
One day it'll be on IGN.
But it really, it's one of those, like, the independent movies are the ones I worry about more, because people aren't really going to know that they're out. Whereas, with Mulan, whether you see it now or you see it in December, somebody is you're going to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so jealous, because the last movie I saw in the theater before everything happened was Bloodshot, and I really can't be that can't be the last movie I saw in the theater.
No.
Okay, I don't want to make this into the How
Same
Valiant.
with me, Gary.
Yeah, seriously, I don't want to make this into the How Valiant Has Made Me a Sad Boy panel. Because for those of you who don't know, now Nathan knows, because I actually got Nathan into Valiant comics about 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so about 5-6 years ago, I was telling him, I was like, look, Valiant's about to come back. I'm a huge fan of this. And I told him, pick up the back issues. This new stuff is looking amazing. And it was like, when it started, like, Valiant was white hot, amazing storytelling. And it was doing some of the most inventive stuff in comic books, like I said, almost a decade ago. And they were starting to ride that wave. And about 2.5 years ago, just like what happened in the 90s, they basically sold like a controlling interest of Valiant away. And then like the corporate kind of like, sleazies kind of came in and said, well, how can we rip it apart and take a look at its guts? And they didn't rebuild it the same way. It's not working as well. And in that decision-making process, they said, let's do a Valiant shared universe movie and let's do Bloodshot, which on paper sounds amazing. They're like, who can we get to play Bloodshot? And they're like, Vin Diesel. And everybody walked out the room.
I love Vin, but yeah.
You know what? I'll be honest. I like Vin in certain things. I'm very much I have to be in the right frame of mind. I have to know that the source material is going to be good. And I have to know that the script is going to be able to hold up. And those three things normally don't match. And I know with this one, I was a little iffy on Vin. I knew the source material was good, but I knew the script. Just from watching the trailer, the script was not good. Because I'm like, that's not Bloodshot. Like, if you read the Bloodshot remake comic, and again, Nathan has read the book. He knows what I'm talking about. That's not how that book goes.
There were so many problems. There should have been a Harbingers movie first, too. And I just don't want to even start.
Yeah, we don't even want to go there. Yeah,
that's a whole other panel.
You're right. It really is. Yeah. So Legend of Cake said their last movie was Sonic the Hedgehog.
That was actually really good. That movie was better than it should have been.
I Netflixed it, but yeah.
My last movie was Rise of Skywalker. I haven't been to the theater in a while.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Now I will say Sonic the Hedgehog was actually the first VOD movie I did in quarantine. So I missed it because I think it came out 2 weeks before the quarantine. 3
About
weeks?
2-3 weeks. It was real close.
And I was like, I'm not going to go see Sonic. And then like people were saying, no, it's really good. You should go see it. And I was like, okay, we're going to go see it. And then we went to C2E2 and we're like, okay, we're going to C2E2. It's going to be amazing. And we come back. Let's go to the movies. Yeah, you can't go to the movies anymore. Why? You're going to die of the Rona. Okay. So we're in the house and we're fighting people like in Thunderdome for toilet paper. And once we had our toilet paper armor on, we're like, okay, let's watch a movie. And like we had no options. Like that first week of VOD, there was just nothing out. And it said Sonic the Hedgehog for $20. And I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And it was the best damn $20 I could have spent on that movie. I was like, yes.
Yeah, $20 seems to be the good price point though, because as
it does feel like the right price
Wizard
point, yeah.
pointed out, the Bill and Ted 3, $20 felt worth it.
Yes, actually, somebody did say, I think it was Donald who was on our last panel. He actually said that Bill and Ted 3 did it pretty well. And I would agree, yes. I didn't even know this, but when I did the $20 rental, they converted it over to a purchase. They said, if you spend $20, you just get the movie.
There's a special in the first week or so, yeah.
There was like a special. I didn't know that. I was just planning on renting the movie, and they said, nah, you can have it. And I'm like,
and it was so much fun. I saw that with a screener as well, but it was, so I had to watch it on my computer. Because a lot of the times now with screeners now, they don't mostly Netflix lets you watch them on your television, but a lot of them don't. So I have to watch them on my little computer screen.
Right.
So Keanu was not big enough, is what I'm saying.
Keanu wasn't big enough. Yeah. You know what's funny though? Actually, when we were watching Bill and Ted 3, which by the way, if you have not seen Bill and Ted 3, if there is one thing that you should take away from this panel is absolutely go watch Bill and Ted Face the Music. It is everything you need to see in a movie right now. It does not take itself seriously. If you've seen Bill and Ted 1 or 2, you know this is not high art. But at the same time, this movie knows exactly what it is, exactly where it's going, and it does so with such earnestness that when you get to the end of it, and that last line is, they thought the music was going to save the world, and it did, you won't like another half hour after that. Like, that's the thing that makes you sad about that movie, is that you get these, I have them right now, I have goosebumps thinking about that last 5 minutes. And again, this is not a spoiler per se, but you finally see how Bill and Ted saved the world. And there's like a light show behind them, and it's beautiful, and there's joy on their face. I mean, you see 50-year-old Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves playing their hearts out, and I can't say anything else because they'll give stuff away, but it's just so joyful that it literally becomes a beacon in the sky. And and if that doesn't lift your heart in a year that feels so heavy with darkness, it is exactly the balm that you need to make yourself feel better. And I cannot recommend it enough. I really can't.
I want to throw a new wrinkle in here because the one thing we haven't talked about is the return of the drive-in.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I still haven't gone to one, but I'm dying. I mean, I've been to them in my life, but I haven't been to anything like that recently. But I love the idea of drive-ins. I miss them. I used to go as a little kid, and they were gone, and now they're really popping up everywhere, and I think it's really good. And I think between that and that might be a thing that lasts, because that the idea of going to, like, I used to sit in the back of my parents' car, and we'd get bonbons, and
were they in a station wagon so you could drop the hood down?
Yes.
You can stretch out.
Pinto. So it was a death trap. But I ate bonbons in it, so it was great.
Yeah, the drive-in will never die. Here, I'm going to pull this up. Now, if you guys don't know this saying, does anybody recognize where that saying is from? The drive-in will never die?
Poco will never die?
I'm sorry?
Poco will never die?
No, the drive-in will never die is the catchphrase of the one, the only, Joe Bob Briggs. And that man has been pushing for the drive-thru to have a resurgence. He has been saying the drive-thru will come back, and people thought that man was crazy. And all of a sudden, he's like Muhammad on the mountain going like, the drive-thru. To the point now where like people are actually getting him to come out, and he's doing like these kind of stand-up shows at drive-thrus. Like he's kind of doing like a drive-thru of America kind of thing right now. But I mean, Nathan, I think you brought up a fantastic point. Here in Charleston, we didn't have a drive-in until our friend Anthony mentioned it to the theater he worked for. He worked for this place called The Terrace, which is kind of like an art house. And he said, hey, why don't we do a drive-in, so that way people can basically, we have this large back lot. We can basically project it on the back of our building. People can come in. We'll do it all hands-free. The only downside is that whenever you got your concessions, you couldn't get refills. So whatever you got had to last you the whole time. But they were doing double features, and they sold out basically from like, I think they started it in May. It went until I think late August, and it was always sold out because we were going to go. And it became really poignant because we knew this, but we didn't realize how bad he was getting, is that Anthony was also dying of cancer when he was doing this. And for those of you who watched our Pop Cycle channel before, you know, I talked about him before. He just recently died a few weeks back, and we really miss him because I think he's one of those people who would have loved to have seen how much the drive-in has now kind of resurged, because it really is a great way for people to still have that theater experience. You can socially distance, and you can have this just phenomenal movie crowd vibe, because that's what we're really there for. That group of people who are with you is still something that we all kind of hold on to. Hearing 47 or 50 or 150 other people laughing at the same jokes at the same time with you, you all kind of feed off that energy, even if you're in cars. And
it can make an average movie an exceptional movie if the crowd is into it.
Yeah. But I mean, there has to be a discussion there about the price point too. I mean, because
it's true.
Because I think it was the Atlanta Ballet. Every year down here in Atlanta, they do the Nutcracker around the holiday season, and it's a big production. They have it running for a good month and a half, but they can't do it this year obviously because of COVID. So they said, well, why don't we film the production? We'll get everybody on the stage. We'll film the dancers, film the production and stuff. We'll put it up at a drive-in theater. That's great. That's fantastic. I love the idea. But the price point is something like $150 or $200 a car.
Wow.
And it's like, if you have a big family, that makes sense because it's about the same price you pay to go to the ballet anyway.
Right.
But if
it's like 4 or 5 people.
Maybe, right? But if it's just my wife and I who would love to go see the Nutcracker. We've done it for multiple years. We love the ballet. I'm not paying $100 a head, to go sit in my own car to watch it on the screen. It doesn't work for me. If it's something like it was where, my first driving experience was a double feature of The Great Outdoors and Dragnet. Back in the 80s.
Mine was E.T.
That was affordable because it was just like, okay, we're all going to get in the car and go see this, put the speaker on the window and that kind of thing, and that was,
you don't have to do that anymore. Now they just broadcast on AM, FM, and they just have their own channel. You just plug, you just tune right in. Honestly, technology has made the drive-thru experience such a crazy, awesome, just like,
provided you have a good speaker system in your car.
Well, I mean, forget just being at a drive-in. Right. Just that little crappy. No, but that little crappy hanger speaker that looks like the old.
Are you kidding? Well, one of those is a Bluetooth for my phone.
But remember that? Remember they used to show them. They would hang on the window. They always looked like those crooner microphones from the 50s. Right?
And there was always a thing at the beginning and the end of the movie of please take it out of your window. Don't drive away with it.
Right. Just rip it right off the ground. But technology has really allowed us to still enjoy movies in really interesting ways through this pandemic. And I'm so glad for it, because movies and TV shows have been one of those respites that I've been able to lean in on. You know, there are certain paid programs that I said I would never, ever buy into, like Peacock and stuff. But they have some cool free, they have some cool stuff behind their paywall. And I'm like, it's $5 a month. Screw it. I'm not going to a movie this month or whatever. And I'll put the $5 towards that. And if I watch a couple shows, you know, commercial free, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was fun. You know, it's worth it. So between that and then having the drive-through, I feel like we're on this tipping point where I know people are going to be happy to go back to the theaters, but I think for theaters to flourish in the future, they're going to really have to up their amenity game.
And
well, I think that's where the future for theaters is.
Oh, like Jenna was talking about, I managed to go to the Alamo Draft House in Austin, and that was such an amazing experience, because it's that you get the theater, you get the food, you get the booze.
Right.
They will come in and they will physically throw you out if you're ruining the experience for other people by running your mouth. You know, that's what they're going to have to
Alamo
do.
is like the gold standard of theaters.
You know, they're interesting because I've written for their website, Birth Movie Staff, and I wrote for almost every issue of their magazine. And they really take their movies seriously, and that's the thing that I really loved about it. And the same thing out here, you know, we have ArcLight. And ArcLight is, you know, a place where you get to reserve your seats. So you've got reservations. You don't have to get there early because unless you want to go eat or drink, but you don't have to worry about it. And they have certain movies where you can bring alcohol in that are, you know, later in the day. And it's a really nice experience. And I have a feeling like, I know what's going to happen. A lot of movie theaters are going to go out of business, and then other people are going to swoop in because it's like a restaurant. The building's already set up for it.
Yeah.
So someone else is going to come in, buy it on the cheap, and there may be new chains that start out of this. But I think that is the thing. I think they're competing for people now. And if they're going to want to get people back in the theater, they're going to need to do things like commemorative magazines. Like they used to have sort of playbills. They had like programs. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
They had programs back when I was a kid, and they used to give those out when you'd go see a movie, and it was more of an event experience, which I think is what I feel with drive-ins now. It feels like an event. You know, they're doing it with a lot of Halloween stuff, where instead of going through like a haunted house, you have a drive-through event. I know Haunted Hayride is doing that in LA, where you drive through. And so I think, you know, particularly as movie prices go up and as people come out of this pandemic and when things start to open up, there are going to be a lot of people who don't have money to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
So if they're going to do it, it's going to need to be an event.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. I'm sorry, Michael, please continue.
Well, I'm thinking also there's room in here for the theater chains to negotiate too. Because I mean, it's been a while since I looked at this, but if I remember right, the first 2 or 3 weeks of movies out in theaters, the ticket price is very heavily weighted toward the studio. The theater gets very little of that slice. And then about the 2 or 3 week mark, it flips, and the theater gets the money more than the studio does. And I feel like this might be the opportunity for a theater to say, okay, look, you know, we've seen the numbers, we've seen the performances, you need us. How about we renegotiate this and make it more of an even split, and make it so that if something like this happens in the future, they almost have a safety net, that they don't fall apart again if there's another global shutdown.
It's going to be that, or we're going to fall back to the whole reason that we had the rise of the independent movies in the 70s, is we're going to go back to the golden age of Hollywood, where the studios are going to buy and own the theaters.
Yeah.
And so there's going to, you know, that's why a lot of theaters were the Paramount, because they were owned by Paramount Pictures.
Right.
And what caused a lot of legislation was it was considered a monopoly, because, you know, well, we're not going to run any Sony movies at our Paramount theaters. And so that's my nightmare scenario, frankly, is that happens, that the studios swoop in, buy up these chains, and then
didn't they just say recently somebody is looking, if Regal does completely shut down, isn't somebody already, like one of the studios already kind of like hawking over it?
The studios remember.
Yeah.
The studios have two things. They remember how much money they used to make, and they have a knack for learning the wrong lesson.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and that'll work in big cities, but it won't work in small towns. Like in LA, you know, if you have like a Disney studio, a Disney theater, and a Paramount theater, like all that stuff, that's fine. But you know, I live in LA, so
Right.
That's a totally different thing. And I think local movie theaters, I wonder if a lot of them are going to turn into second run theaters, where the cheap stuff, art house kind of thing.
They might.
Yeah, and as one of our commenters pointed, they only have one AMC in their town. I'm trying to see who it was that said that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you tell me
Regal,
what it is, I can
Rachel
bring
Howell. Yeah, 9:45. Rachel pointed out.
Who also got a program when they saw Hateful Eight, which is
right. Let me see here. I see Sonic was good. Hold on, I'm trying to find it real quick so we can pull it up on screen. Hold on. We got a lot of comments. You said 9:45?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. We're breaking the third wall here. Oh, here we go. Here we go.
The third wall.
The third wall. The fourth wall's fine.
Oh, okay.
It's still standing.
It's still standing just fine. We go to the third wall here. So yeah, there we go. Regal owns the only theater that they have in Gainesville, so that's crazy.
Yeah, back in when I was in the Navy, the last duty station I was at was in Atoka, Tennessee. It's a little tiny farm town, but they had an independent giant Cineplex that was the center of town basically, and it's where I saw The Dark Knight. But it was that was the only show in town. It's the only place you go for movies.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there were only 2 theaters in our town, and I mean I grew up like 40 minutes from New York City, but it looked very rural. It might as well have been anywhere else in the United States, Blake. But there were only 2. So, you go into the city, but then you had to pay for that on top of the prices. So,
yeah. Well, and I think that's something that, I think we've gotten, especially in the last 30, 35 years, we've all been so focused on what is that first weekend box office number? Is it going to be the number that we want in order to make it to a franchise or to start immediately greenlighting the next movie? Because we want such a clear result that first weekend so that way we could start making money on the next movie before the first movie's even out of the theater. And I think that what we're seeing because of VOD and because of a lot of these drive-ins and whatnot is that there's a lot of lifeblood left in movies that are brand new. I would say a good example is Sonic the Hedgehog. I was very surprised by that one. The Invisible Man. I was hearing that it was doing okay, and then it started very quickly gaining a lot of speed on VOD, and people were discovering it. And if you haven't seen that movie, it is creepy. That movie is like gaslighting the movie. If you've not seen it, it is a messed up movie, but it's really good. And it definitely was something that, because I took a chance on weeks after it came out, I was able to enjoy it. And apparently I was in a large majority of folks who were discovering this 4 or 5 weeks after the fact. And I'm curious if this is going to start to change how Hollywood starts to look at their Venn diagram. Are they going to start to look at only that opening weekend, or are they going to start really looking at how they can capitalize this on, like Jenna said, second run theaters, first run super box office, VODs? Because for me, it all feels like a way to generate more money and increase the longevity of films versus us having rapid fire 3 new movies every week that we have to see.
Yeah, it really has become too much of a horse race of that, like you said, that first weekend, because I've seen so many times where a movie, I mean, just within the last 3 years, I'm not going to name any names or fandoms, but there was movies that came out that didn't do, they did $80 million opening weekend. Well, it wasn't $100 million, so it's a bomb.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I'll name the effect here with both the Star Wars 7 and Star Wars 8. I mean, The Force Awakens did phenomenal money because it was the first Star Wars in forever. Yeah. And then you see The Last Jedi come out, and then Disney's like, well, if it doesn't make $1 billion, we're screwed. And it's like, guys, let's get real here, okay? It's not going to make $1 billion.
Might have making like 700 million or something like that. It still made an obscene amount of money,
right?
Yeah,
money's money.
Yeah, and also everybody just posts the story online anyway. And I think that's the other thing. That's part of what's happened with the opening weekend is that if you have so many movies with so many spoilers with it, where it's Star Wars, like where we as reviewers, we don't screen the movie until with Star Wars we got some, and I went to the premiere, but the screenings don't happen until after the premiere. Right. So they won't even let us see it. Or like we did press junkets for the last 2 Avengers movies without having seen it. So one of them, they just had only the cast that we thought we knew were going to be in it, and they had what's his face, Jeff Goldblum moderating it. So it was just the Jeff Goldblum show, which, by the way, is a great show. But it's not
big fan.
Yeah, big fan. I interviewed him, and he grabbed my hand and he called me dear, and he discussed my necklace. I have no idea what he said about the movie, but it was wonderful.
but that's because you were in Goldblum vision. You were.
He was so charming. And not
did he do the tiny imperfections line? Did he do?
Did he do the thing with your hand?
Yes, he did, and then he grasped both of them within his, and it was just so soothing and lovely.
Okay, so at what point did your boyfriend kind of go, okay, it's getting awkward now, can we go? Like,
No. This was at a press junket, so he was not with me.
Okay, so he wasn't with you. So you got to hear about it after the fact. You're like, honey.
Yeah, no, but it wasn't that kind. Like, he wasn't creepy about it at all. Like, he was just Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, and you got to figure.
I wasn't implying creepy at all. I wasn't trying to imply creepy.
And you got to figure Goldblum gets a pass. I mean, come on.
He got the pass, but he, like I said, he really wasn't creepy. Like, he was just like, come closer.
No, I mean from the boyfriend. The boyfriend's like, no, it's Jeff Goldblum. It's fine. It's fine.
You know what? You know how everybody has lists?
Yeah,
I don't have that. Not that I would anyway, but no, because I meet all of them.
Oh, you know what? That is a damn good point. That's true. You know what? Your list needs to be like that farmer from like Midwest Kentucky or something, right? Like,
I know, because I'll never run into them. And
you'll never run into that guy.
He can't either because he works in the industry as well. So,
right. Yeah. But like, you can't have Chris Hemsworth on there because you're going to see him next week at the junket. So, like, Jenna has unusual side effects because of her job, is what we're finding out.
I have a very weird life, you guys.
Okay. Now, I was actually going to mention the fact that, since we're talking about the fact that, movies sometimes are getting new life because of VOD, one of the ones I wanted to talk about for a second is also an extremely controversial movie. Now, this is a movie that was delayed almost a year because people were so mad at it. And when it decided to come out, they're like, what do we have to, like, literally Universal's like, what do we have to lose by releasing this film? If it bombs, who cares? It's all VOD. It'll just die a quiet death. Let's just slide it out and see what happens. I am, of course, referring to the movie simply known as The Hunt. Now, has anybody here seen The Hunt?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so...
Know the premise, I haven't seen it.
So I had heard about this movie, and I was like, ooh. So for those of you who don't know about the premise of this movie, the premise of this movie is that very, very rich left-wing liberals are taking conservative right-wing every people out into the middle of this farm, and they're just executing them for fun. They're just hunting these people down.
Yeah.
That's
the world's most
quote-unquote
dangerous game.
The world's most dangerous game, right? That's the premise of this movie. And I was like, I don't know if I can get behind this. And I remember that it had gotten a lot of heat last year, and I was like, I'm not going to watch that movie. And then I found out that it was done by, what's his name? He produced the Watchmen series. My brain's blanking.
Lindelof?
Yes, Damon Lindelof.
Yeah.
And Lindelof, actually, I had listened to a podcast and how he was talking about how people really don't understand what The Hunt is about. And if you have your reservations, you should go and watch it. So we're in lockdown. And I'd gone through all the new Universal movies. It was the only one that was on the list that I hadn't seen yet. And I looked at Laura and I was like, okay, I know we're going to have strong thoughts about this. Can we try it? And so we kind of went in knowing that at any minute we could just turn it off. And we watched this movie, and this movie does something I have not seen in a long time. And I don't want to make this a political show, but what it does is it does a very, very smart thing in the fact that it absolutely makes fun of the extreme left hypocrisy of not listening to the other side and the extreme right hypocrisy of assuming everybody is an idiot, and finding a way of putting both those people side by side, showing the ridiculousness of them, and then kind of putting one person in the middle who doesn't really glob onto either one of those, and they kind of weave between it. Now, to say that this movie has very interesting twists and turns is an understatement, but it was a movie that I never would have tried if it wasn't for VOD, if it wasn't for the lockdown, and it turned out to be one of my more enjoyable experiences during this. And I've been telling people, it's a movie that you should be mad at until you watch it. And then when you watch it, you go like, I see what you did there. And that is something that I think is a very interesting microcosm that's happening right now, because there are a lot of movies that I think are getting a lot of chances and secondary bites at the apple because of the fact that we can't go to theaters. So we're hungry for new content. To comma that, for one that I know a lot of people have seen, is Netflix's purchasing of Cobra Kai and then releasing it on their platform for the first 2 seasons. I was a fan of it when it came out on YouTube. I was on YouTube Red, so I was there for the first day. And I love that right now everybody's like, oh my God, Cobra Kai is so amazing. And I'm like, you guys are 2 years behind schedule. Like,
I liked it before it was cool.
Yeah, it's like I was here before it was cool. But no, what I really was where's my season 3? I know it's already in the can and it's already been filmed for like a damn year. Give me.
That's kind of the interesting spot we're in right now, because we're getting this log jam of movies that have not come out.
Right.
I mean, it's really depressing. This is the first year in 10 years without a MCU movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this was our year for a new Bond that we were going to get.
Yeah, we didn't get our Bond.
Wonder Woman 1984 was going to come out the weekend of my birthday. I was so excited for the weekend of my birthday.
Can I just say I was on the set for that movie and I'm so excited for it. And I am so frustrated because I was on the set like 2 years ago now. I really want to see it.
It's been a hot minute.
But so we have this just jam of movies that are waiting to come out, which is why we're kind of watching things like The Hunt or Cobra Kai, things that wouldn't normally, things are getting the air that they kind of deserve.
Right.
And I think I don't know what it's going to take, but we're going to hit that tipping point though, where they're going to have to crap or get off the pot.
Right.
And I think every studio is kind of looking at it's the end of the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're all standing there.
And they're all looking to the left.
They're waiting to see who's going to blink. And the second, I thought it was going to be Mulan, but the price point, I think, was what stopped it.
Yeah.
But the first one, like, if Disney drops Black Widow for $20, the floodgate's going to hit. And all of a sudden, we're going to get VOD, 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 VOD.
Yeah.
They tried the theater thing.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of TV to watch. I think it's going to be like what happened with reality shows during the writer's strike, is that all of a sudden, like the only thing we're going to be getting, and I know I have friends who work on reality shows who they're filming right now under quarantine, but there are some shows that are filming, but it's going to take a while. And I think, they're going to shut down every time someone gets sick, as they should. And I think as our TV viewing options start to narrow in terms of new stuff, that's when we're going to start seeing the theaters go, you know what?
I'm wondering how much animated stuff we're going to start getting.
So
that's true.
much.
Yeah.
Going by auditions that are out there, and I'm not auditioning for them, but I do voiceover. So, there's a lot that's on the way, because that's stuff you can also work at home for.
Right. Now,
the other thing is, if this becomes the standard, if this becomes the new normal, they can start making the movies for smaller budgets so that they can release them straight to streaming. The problem is when they have a movie that costs $200 million to make, you have your Black Widows, your Wonder Woman 84s and everything, they really don't want to release that, because when they can only expect to make on a good day $200 million, on a good release $200 million from VOD, they're like, well, we're just break even from this release, so they want to hold that back. But if they start taking the mindset of this is going to last a long time, this is going to be another year or two, start making those movies with smaller budgets, and release those. And Disney has said that they're going to, focus more on Disney Plus content right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mindset they're taking.
Small cast, small crew.
Especially with the innovations they came up with for The Mandalorian, where they can film pretty much anything.
Yeah, that virtual set that they have is so freaking crazy.
So cool. So cool.
It's so
I just noticed a comment. Legend of Cake said more good animation, which I love animation. So I'm totally down for that. But one thing I do want to mention, though, is that if what we're going to get for the next year is largely animation and reality, there's going to be a saturation point with that. And then what I'm afraid of is that a lot of good animation isn't going to happen, because people are going to get sick of it because there isn't any balance.
There is a tipping point. And I think that the next couple of years, we're definitely going to be cognizant of, okay, well, this is what we could make at the time, and we're going to be incorporating that. I know on Sunday, we're going to be talking about New Trek, which is the new Star Trek series that are going on. And if you haven't seen The Lower Decks, you're missing out on some of the best Star Trek that's going on right now. And that's basically a comedy show, but it's still just so much fun. So I think there's a lot of room to move, but I think also it's very dangerous to go over and oversaturate. So they have to pick their battles wisely.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep watching The Great British Baking Show because it's very soothing.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure there's going to be this saturation point, because I know I'm not caught up on everything, and there's so many streaming services and so much content that I haven't seen yet. I can just go back and watch stuff that was made 5 years ago that I haven't seen yet. So
that's true. Yeah, you just recently, you were saying on Facebook like a week ago, you were asking for new suggestions of content to watch, if I remember correctly. Nathan. Now, to be fair, Nathan is a special gem in the fact that he usually likes to watch stuff that's fairly older. So incorporating new material, he's usually about a decade behind. So to his credit, and this is working for him really well right now, he can skip over all the bad stuff and just wait for people to say, no, this is the only good stuff from the last 5 years.
I have one for you. I have a good one. I have a podcast called Hysterical, which is HISTERICAL. But anyway, it's a history podcast, and so this month we're doing a lot of spooky stuff. So we did Mary Shelley, and I just watched the movie Mary Shelley, which I had never seen. And so I've been watching a lot of old stuff, and that one was wonderful. Like really, I really, really enjoyed it, and it was fairly close to the actual story. So I really liked it. Highly recommend.
Nice. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And how do you spell that again?
Oh, my podcast, HISTERICAL, because it is a comedy history podcast with Anastasia Washington, and it's just hysterical pod everywhere.
So there you go, guys. If you want to watch that, there you go. Boom.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. See, I try to help out the folks when I can. So check that out. And also, if you are curious about her co-host on that, Anastasia, she will be joining us. I forget, is she on 1984 with us?
I don't know. I'm not on that one. So.
Okay. So I'll have to go look. But I know that. She's on a bunch of panels with us this weekend. So you'll get a chance to meet her as well. She's so cool. Anastasia's really fun. And you'll be able to hang out with her a bit. So definitely, if you get a chance to check that out, that'll be really cool. But yeah, I'm really at a point right now where I'm looking at the situation, and I know I want to go back to the theaters one day, but I don't want to give up the ability to watch movies from the comfort of my home. And I think if Hollywood can find a way to strike that balance, I really feel we're going to see some cool stuff. And the people that I look to right now, who I think they're kind of finding that needle to thread through, is Blumhouse. Blumhouse has been releasing some stuff in theaters, and then I think for the month of October, aren't they releasing like a movie a week, right? On VOD,
Netflix,
and then in
Netflix,
on Netflix, and then in November they're releasing Freaky, which is one part Halloween, one part Freaky Friday, with Vince Vaughn as the slasher serial killer, and I cannot wait for that.
I saw the premise and the trailer for that, and I was like, I'm in. I am so in.
But that's what Blumhouse does, though. Is Blumhouse does these $5 million, $6 million budgets, and then boom, creates these really kind of just nice tight productions that then of course return $30, $40, $50 million on their investment. And I don't care who you are, if you're putting $6 million into your budget, if you're paid double that for all your advertisement, you're still walking away $30 million in the bank. That's just good business. And I think Hollywood would be wise to start looking at those models again. I think being majors, as they call them in Hollywood, gives them a lot of flexibility, but I think it also makes them intractable sometimes. And I think right now that intractability is working against them.
Well, Hollywood has always been, like I said earlier, they tend to learn the wrong lesson, and they tend to be very sluggish to respond, partly because they're a corporation and partly because they don't want to, everybody's worried about losing money, because the second you make a bad movie in Hollywood, you're out the door. Right. If you're a producer at a studio. But the second someone, I think there's no way Black Widow comes out on VOD, and I hate to keep using that one, but that's the biggest one that comes to mind. Black Widow, there's no way it does not make $200 million on VOD. Everybody is going to get that movie. And then Hollywood will go, oh, there's money there. And then they will jump all over it.
I mean, that would be the hope. Another one, actually, that I just thought of that, again, it really benefited from the VOD. And quite frankly, it's funny because you talked about the fact that there are some directors who they make one bad movie and then they're kaput. This came from the director of The Island of Dr. Moreau. He did not make a movie for nearly 30 years. And then they announced that he was making H.P. Lovecraft's Color Out of Space, which we will talk about in a lot more length on Sunday for the Cthulhu panel called Fatagan. But that director had not made a movie in that 25 some odd year span. And they said, we're going to give him an H.P. Lovecraft story, and it's going to star Nicolas Cage. So if I tell you the director of The Island of Dr. Moreau, who hasn't directed a single movie in 25 years, is going to direct an H.P. Lovecraft movie about alien colors, and it's going to star Nicolas Cage. I mean, that sounds like a train wreck. And
yes, and I'm here for it.
But you know what? It was so good. Because for me personally, one of my favorite HP stories of all time was The Color Out of Space. I love that story. It's in my top 5 all the time. And I enjoy the living hell out of that movie. And they nailed the feel for it. They expanded it in all the great ways. The actors were hilarious and awesome. And what was great was they found a way to actually make Nicolas Cage act. And you know how Cage can sometimes become over-caged, you know, and he just goes into his cage mode? They actually found a way in the plot to let him do that. So there are moments in the movie where he just loses his mind, where he's just like, you know, like, Wah! And he just goes full-on Nicolas Cage, and it fits the construct of the movie. And it was brilliant. And again, it was a movie that basically was flying under the radar. I never would have even heard about it. I found out that it was coming to VOD. I gave it a shot. Totally worth it. I am so happy that I did because it turned out to be such an amazing movie, and I'm so glad that I had that opportunity to go ahead and knock that out. Oh, what did it say? So sorry, my brain fart. I was looking at the comments real quick. So the words are hard, people. But so, are there any other movies that you can think of that you would want to suggest to people that you have discovered during this VOD era that they should check out?
Ooh, I've watched a lot lately, and there haven't been a lot of great ones. I've been watching a lot more TV, and it's mostly cooking shows, which is kind of funny because I can't cook. I actually set the cabinets on fire and burned frozen shrimp. So, which I can't even eat because I'm allergic to it. I made it for Jeff. So the fact that I watch cooking shows is really weird, but I would recommend you watch Nailed It because it's weird and fun, and Nicole Byer is awesome. Oh, and by the way, one comment. No, It is not related to the old cartoon Hysteria. It's
right. The hysterical is not related to the old cartoon.
Yeah, we just think we're funny. That's what it is.
You know, it's just good. It's almost like having a nice alliterative name. That's all. You just you're going for the pun. How about you, Mr. Michael? Any suggestions of something that people could check out that you discovered during the VOD?
Much like Nathan's been doing, I've been going back and watching some stuff that I haven't been able to catch up on in recent years. Netflix is still still shipping discs, Physical Media Dinosaur. So I'm still getting discs every week. One of them that popped in was I think it's Just Mercy. It is a tearjerker.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, we just watched that the other night. It made us simultaneously angry and sad. There were angry tears all over the place. It will make you think, and that's a good thing in this day and age.
Absolutely.
So if you get a chance, pick that up.
Okay. How about you, Gary?
Everything I would recommend we've already touched on. Bill and Ted 3 is a delight. The Invisible Man is intense. Those are the big ones for me. I mean, and I kind of liked Mulan, but I'm a weirdo.
I liked Mulan. I did. I really liked it. I didn't know about a lot of the controversial stuff because I saw it very early.
Right.
But I loved it when I saw it.
Yeah. No, my mom, she wanted it. She's on our plan. And so she said, hey, can we get Mulan? I was like, well, I wasn't going to buy it. I was just going to wait till December. She's like, well, I'll buy it. And so she put her credit card in. So I have Mulan, but I still haven't actually watched the damn thing. But she was like, oh, it was great. I loved it. My dad was mad that Mushu wasn't in it, though, which I thought was telling, right?
A lot of people are mad that Mushu wasn't in it. I did not expect Mushu to be in it. It was a live action movie.
Yeah, and I was like, but it's a live action. Why would you have Eddie Murphy dragging? Like, okay, but that's.
Did you have Eddie Murphy?
Yeah,
you just have Eddie Murphy show up on set. Like, hey, I'm here. Yeah.
Even though the one that I'm really looking forward to, and I didn't mean to jump over you, Nathan, but I was going to mention this. It's coming out, I think, directly on Prime. They just announced it last week. Is Eddie Murphy's Coming to America 2?
Yeah.
So excited for that.
It's like, I think it's November 24th or something like that. It's like late November it's coming out or something. I cannot wait for that bad boy to come out. I'm like, yes.
I just hope it's good. I just hope.
Oh man, if it's not good, I don't.
I just want to address the Legend of Cakes that if they call the Lion King remake a live action, they don't technically. I went to the set for that movie, and it was a big room, but we got to play with the camera, the 3D camera, but they didn't actually call it live action. And it was a little different because that was all, fake animals, whereas Mulan was, actual humans. So that's why I think the difference is. I think there at some point there's going to end up being a new category for award shows.
Yeah, I guess, but they could have a CG dragon just like they had a CG genie in Aladdin. So I mean,
yeah.
They could, but just the tone of the film doesn't quite fit.
And that's fair. I'm just saying they could have done it.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I agree that they need to come up with a whole new category, and I love what I've heard some people say is they should have an Oscar category named after the guy who played Gollum, and just say it's the circus folk.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
We got some comments about Mushu here. I'm just putting up real quick the butt dragons that are kind of popping up here. So Mushu got a lot of people excited. But Nathan, I'm sorry, I did jump over you. Did you have a suggestion that you've encountered that you would like to suggest for people to check out?
Well, unfortunately, my experience with things that have been direct to VOD movies specifically have not been very good, beyond what's already been discussed. But as far as a series that I have discovered that I was blown away by, Netflix is a series called Travelers. Which ran from 2016 to 2018. It's a time travel show. Amazing show. I have not been this excited about a show in years. And I binged that thing in a week. So,
that's impressive.
I would recommend people check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, at that, we're going to have to put a pin in this. It has been over an hour, so we are at the end of our time. As you can see at the bottom, it is saying that 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be having the 1984 panel, where we're going to talk about how 1984 was one of the most influential years in cinema, especially modern cinema. And if you don't believe us, you definitely need to come and check this one out. It's got a lot of great people on it. In fact, a couple people from here will be on that. That's what I'm about to say. A couple people from here are going to be on there. And I am really looking forward to this one. But I just want to take a moment to thank my panelists that are with me, Jenna Bush, Michael Faulkner, Gary Mitchell, and Mr. Nathan Laws. You guys were all fantastic. You gave us some really great insight, and I am so glad that you guys were able to just take some time and carve it out of your schedule in order to help make PopCon awesome.
Woo!
Yay! Yeah, pleasure to be here, man.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Need another hero.
Yes! That's how we go out, yes! So hold on, we're going to put Gary full screen. Okay, Gary, sing us out, man. Go. Here we go.
We don't need to know the way home. All we want is like the young, the Thunderdome.
I'm so happy right now.
So audience, please don't forget to join us. We'll be back in approximately 23 minutes for our next panel. That'll be 1984. Thank you guys so much. And again, thank you to my awesome panelists. We will see you on the next one. So until then,